Back in the winter months of 1972, two police officers from Loveland, Ohio would experience individual encounters with an impossible-to-explain humanoid creature that would change the future of their careers forever. Known as the Loveland Frogman, this 4-foot-tall frog-like monster would be sighted throughout the small town over the course of several decades, eventually resulting in a special investigation involving the FBI and possible connections with mysterious flying aircrafts throughout the region. But what do the police encounters back in 1972 tell us about the creature? And why would the officers involved end up having to deny that the events ever took place to begin with? Although sightings of the Loveland Frogman would begin in the mid-1950s, according to the first officer's report, the Loveland Frogman police encounters event would first take place on the 3rd of March back in 1972, when an officer by the name of Ray Shockey would have a strange encounter with frog-like humanoid entities at around 1 in the morning. As Ray Shockey was driving down Riverside Road towards the town of Loveland, he was making a slow turn into town on an icy road, when he noticed what he described as a small humanoid creature laying at the side of the road, close to the intersection of Twitty Road. Originally believing that the creature was a dog lying down in the snow, the officer slowed down to check on the animal to see if it was okay, when he realized that the creature was not a dog. Suddenly the creature rose out of the ground and stood up on 2 legs, and appeared to have been some type of humanoid animal impossible to identify. The officer estimated that the creature most likely stood at around 4 feet tall, and weighed between 50 to 75 pounds at most. Its body lacked any type of hair or fur, and was instead covered in a bumpy leathery skin that would foldably smooth in different areas. The most bizarre features that the animal had, however, was its strange head, that appeared to be the mix of a frog or a lizard face, with legs that appeared to be longer than its arms. Once the officer made direct contact with the creature, the frog-like entity jumped up onto the car, then ran towards the guardrail that wrapped around the road and jumped off the ledge, running into the nearby woods and waterways, passing over the embankment and disappearing into the Miami River. Frightened by the sighting, Officer Ray Shockey immediately drove to the Loveland police station and reported the encounter to fellow police officer Mark Matthews. After describing his encounter in detail, Mark Matthews refused to believe the encounter, and so drove back to the site of the encounter with Ray Shockey to find further evidence of the event. Once the 2 officers returned, tracks leading down into the embankment became apparent, and scratch marks located on the guardrail led Matthews to believe that a large animal must have damaged the rail. Oddly enough, less than 14 days following this incident, Officer Mark Matthews himself would have his own encounter with the Loveland Frogman. According to a report made by Officer Matthews, on the 17th of March back in 1972, Mark Matthews was driving along the road leading out of Loveland when he spotted what he originally believed was an animal lying on the side of the road. Fearing that the body could cause an accident, Officer Matthews pulled out to the side of the road and got out his car in the hopes of dragging the carcass out from the middle of the road. Once Matthews stepped out his car, however, the creature immediately stood up and stared at the officer intently. According to Matthews, the creature appeared exactly like how Officer Ray Shockey had described his encounter, standing roughly 4 feet tall, with leathery skin and the head of a frog. The only additional difference that Mark Matthews noticed was that the creature appeared to have had a long leathery tail similar to a lizard's. As the 2 stared at each other, the creature made a sudden move towards the officer, scaring him into pulling out his weapon and firing at the entity. Although the officer fired several rounds, either the officer missed each shot or the bullets had no effect on the animal, as it ran away and leapt over the guardrail, disappearing into the nearby waterways. Matthews would later describe in his reports that he believed that someone had hit the animal prior to his encounter, given the fact that it appeared to have moved with a limp, and was found in the middle of the road incapacitated when he first spotted it. Unfortunately for both officers Ray Shockey and Mark Matthews, Their official police reports of spotting the strange Loveland Frogman would end up causing a great deal of ridicule on their part, affecting their careers and public images for the rest of their lives. Despite the many interviews insisting that the creature appeared to be a 4-foot humanoid frog-like entity, with drawings of the creature confirmed by both officers, the officers would later change their story to avoid ridicule, and claimed that they'd witnessed nothing more than a pet iguana that must have escaped captivity. It's uncertain whether or not the officers changed their story to avoid ridicule, or due to outside forces requiring their cooperation in order to downplay the events. The officers wouldn't be alone in their reports, however, as during the same month as the Loveland Police Department sightings, a farmer claimed to have directly encountered 4 frog-like or lizard-like humanoid creatures that were seen wandering through his farm, that resided adjacent to the Little Miami River. Although the dates surrounding the incident are not specific, the farmer recalled that the events happened sometime in March of 1972, and believed that the creatures were some undiscovered native species to the area, given how they walked around the farm and were near the open waters. According to the farmer, the creature stood around 3 to 4 feet in height, had greenish skin with large bulging eyes that almost appeared as if they were popping out of their heads. The farmer also described that the creatures had large mouths that appeared to be filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. As the farmer attempted to approach the creatures, he watched as they ran off into the Little Miami River and disappeared into the nearby waterways, submerging into the water and vanishing from sight. Several days later following the incident, the farmer would claim to have seen the creatures once more standing around the river embankments. This was as he was riding his bike into town. Due to having seen the creatures multiple times near the river, he assumed that the creatures must have been a native large amphibious species, similar to an alligator or a lizard of some kind. Unfortunately, since their initial sightings, next to nothing is known about the creatures, except for the fact that many eyewitnesses complain of time loss after encountering the creatures, a trait commonly associated with mysterious flying aircrafts. So what do you make of these strange encounters? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.